The story begins with Meg, a woman about to divorce who needs a new home since she will be living apart from her husband. After viewing many places she didn't like, she's shown a large mansion that once belonged to a wealthy man. The house has every convenience, but since the former owner had died, his family put it up for sale at a lower price. When Meg and her daughter step inside, they immediately like the house and decide to buy it. Meg loved everything about the house, but when the seller took her to the third floor, she noticed something unusual. There was a strange room, like a bunker or a safe room designed to hide or protect something. Curious, Meg wondered why the room had been built. The seller explained that when the former owner lived there, he had a fortune worth several $1,000,000. To protect himself, he had built the room as a place to hide in case of danger or an attack, giving him a chance to survive. They entered the room and found several monitors connected to cameras placed throughout the house. Audio recordings could also be played there. The walls were reinforced with steel, and the gate was fitted with electrified bars to stop intruders. Most notably, the room had a phone that never turned off, though one feature had not yet been activated and required the service company to finish. Meg found the room unusual but didn't care, since what mattered to her was living in a luxurious house. That was why she decided to pay and buy it. She moved in and began her new life there. At first, Meg and her daughter lived happily for a few days. But one night, several burglars appeared outside watching the house while they slept. One man tried to open the door, but it was locked from the inside. He then climbed through a window, unlocked the balcony door, and went inside to open the front door for the others. Among them was a thief named Burnham, who saw Meg and her daughter. Compared to the others, Burnham was more decent and had refused to steal before. He only agreed to join when he was told the house was empty. But after seeing Meg and her daughter, he refused, saying he would not rob a home with a family inside nor commit murder. It was then revealed that the one who recruited him was actually the former owner's nephew. He knew the house had been vacant and was the one who planned the entire burglary. When he realized the house was occupied, the nephew of the former owner reassured Burnham that everything was under control. He revealed he had hired a killer to steal the money and murder Meg and her daughter, believing this would make the robbery easier. But Burnham refused and decided to leave, unwilling to take anyone's life. Enraged, the nephew cursed him, calling him a fool for walking away from a score worth over $3 million. Hearing about the money, Burnham hesitated, as he too needed cash. Around midnight, Meg woke up to use the bathroom. When she returned to bed, she noticed the safe room light was still on. As she went to turn it off, she saw on the TV monitors that the burglars had broken into the house. Terrified, Meg rushed to her daughter, woke her up, and told her to stay quiet. After explaining the situation, she tried to lead her out to escape, but the nephew of the former owner spotted them and began chasing, using the elevator to go down. Meg's daughter suggested they hide in the safe room, where they would be safer. Meg agreed, and they hurried to the third floor. Before the thief could catch up, they blocked the path with a chair and quickly entered the room, locking the door behind them. Both were terrified and had no idea what the intruders were after. Meanwhile, the former owner's nephew grew furious because the millions of dollars he was after were hidden inside that very room, something Meg did not know. Meg suddenly remembered her phone was still in the room, so she tried using the landline there. But it didn't work since it had never been activated by the company. The killer grew suspicious, worried that she might have called the police, warning that if they arrived, they would all be caught. Burnham reassured him it was impossible, because the phone had to be activated first. He knew this well, as he had once worked for the company that installed it and was familiar with every detail of the house. Meg pressed the intercom button and announced to the burglars that she had called the police and they would arrive soon. The former owner's nephew quickly held up a note to the camera, stating it was impossible because the phone wasn't working. Surprised by how he knew, Meg continued speaking through the intercom, telling them to take whatever they wanted and leave. But the nephew wrote again, saying what they wanted was inside the safe room itself and urged them to come out, promising they would not be harmed. Meg insisted they would not come out and refused to believe the burglars, no matter how long they waited. Hearing this, the former owner's nephew demanded Burnham show them a way into the safe room. Burnham replied there was no way except from the inside. Frustrated, the nephew decided to break through the floor above the room, which was its ceiling. Burnham warned it was pointless, since such rooms were always heavily reinforced. He was right when they smashed the floor. They found solid steel walls beneath and could not break through. Hearing the noise, Meg panicked, but her daughter reassured her that they were completely safe inside the specially designed room. Meanwhile, the former owner's nephew came up with a reckless plan to pump poison gas into the ventilation system, forcing them out by suffocation. The group agreed and quickly set up a gas cylinder, connecting it to the room's air ducts. After a while, the gas began to spread throughout the room. Meg's daughter opened 2 bags stored inside, which contained essential supplies. Among them were 2 fireproof jackets, allowing them to protect themselves. Meg then lit the gas pipe with a lighter, triggering an explosion. The blast burned the nephew's hands and mouth, scattering debris everywhere. His entire plan collapsed, leaving him furious. He lost control and shouted, saying that whether I got the money or not, he would not spare either of us. Meg's daughter kept searching through the bags and found a flashlight. In the room, they noticed a large tube, and through its opening, they could see the house in front. The girl shone the flashlight toward it, hoping the owner would notice. The man inside did wake up and saw the light, but because of the distance and the noisy surroundings, he could not hear their cries for help. Thinking it was just an ordinary light, he went back to sleep. Their hope was completely shattered. They felt escape was impossible because the thieves had locked every door and window and waited downstairs, refusing to leave until they got the money. Through the camera, Meg saw that they had gone down. She hurried into her room, told her daughter to unlock the door, and reached for her phone. But the thieves noticed the door was open and rushed upstairs. Just in time, Meg returned and shut the door again. This made them uneasy, wondering what she had brought inside. When the killer spotted the charger left behind, he realized Meg had taken the phone with her. Meg tried to call her ex-husband, but the call wouldn't connect. She then remembered the phone line was still active and that if she connected her phone to it, it would work. She opened the panel, pulled out the wire, and hooked it to her phone. Luckily, she managed to call her husband and told him to come quickly with the police because the thieves were inside the house. But halfway through, the call was cut off when Burnham realized what she was doing and severed the main line. At this point, the homeowner's nephew gave up, overwhelmed by the pain from his burned and torn face, and said he had to leave. Before going, he revealed that there was far more money hidden in the house than just 100. Hearing this, the killer shot him dead to keep the secret from spreading. Terrified, Meg and her daughter watched in fear. Just then, the doorbell rang. They opened it and saw Meg's husband, who had come alone without the police. Believing he was doing the right thing, he stepped inside, but it was a fatal mistake, as the killer immediately attacked him. He then told Burnham to check his ID, and Burnham discovered he was Meg's husband. The killer's mind was filled with greed and bloodlust, so he pointed a gun at Burnham, forcing him to lead the way to the room and threatening to shoot him if he refused. But Burnham said he could do whatever he wanted, since there was no way to get inside. The killer said he had an idea. He dragged Meg's husband in front of the camera and began beating him. Witnessing this, Meg and her daughter came out terrified and in tears. At that moment, another crisis struck. Meg's daughter suffered a seizure due to her illness. Without medication, she could die. Meg was overwhelmed with fear, not knowing what to do as her daughter's condition worsened. Through the camera, Meg saw Burnham and the killer fighting, with Burnham pulled down to the floor. She thought it was the right moment to bring the medicine, so she quietly unlocked the door and entered the room. There, she found her husband lying injured on the bed. She quickly grabbed the medicine and prepared to leave. But before she could, she saw the killer dressed in her husband's clothes, a trap set to deceive her. While hiding near the dressing room, she was spotted, and the killer threatened that she had no escape and must surrender or be killed. At that moment, Meg cared only about saving her daughter. She rushed forward, pushed him aside, and ran toward the dressing room. As she reached the door, she saw Burnham standing there while the killer closed in from behind. Burnham quickly shut the door, fearing she might shoot, but Meg managed to throw her daughter's medicine inside. Burnham shut the door in a hurry and trapped the killer's hand. The man screamed in pain, begging to open it. At that moment, Meg picked up the gun. Burnham panicked, saying he couldn't open the door because Meg might shoot. Meg pointed the gun, demanding medicine for her daughter, and promised not to hurt anyone. Burnham agreed, but told Meg to lower the gun and not call the police. When she did, he opened the door and freed the man's hand. After that, Burnham gave Meg's daughter the medicine and admitted he also had a daughter. Meg went downstairs to ask her ex-husband for help and came up with a bold plan. She placed the gun in his hands, used a lampstand as support, then grabbed a hammer and went back upstairs. The camera in the room had already been disabled. She hid behind the living room door. Burnham didn't notice, He lifted the rug and opened the safe, but it was empty. Then he checked under the mattress and found bank bonds worth $2 million. He stuffed them into his clothes, then opened the door and walked out. At that moment, they encountered Meg's husband, who was armed. Burnham was at target, while the killer held Meg's daughter hostage. The girl begged her father not to resist, or she would be killed. Her father demanded she be released, promising to leave. Just then, Meg struck the killer on the head with a hammer, knocking him down but not killing him. Burnham took the chance to run, but the killer quickly got back up and moved inside. Seeing this, Meg's husband opened fire. Hearing the gunshots, Burnham feared for his daughter. Thinking of his own daughter, his conscience stirred, and he returned to finish off the killer. Afterward, he tried to climb over the wall to escape, but it was too late. The armed police arrived, forcing him to surrender. The valuable bonds he held now fluttered like scraps of paper in the storm. Although he was a good man, always wanting to help and care for others, he was still arrested by the police because his greed for money turned his good deeds into crimes. A few days later, Meg and her daughter talked happily and began looking for a new home, one without dressing rooms or secret hideouts, and without any need for risk. The movie ends here.